What's going on, guys? This is the 5 Yard Pass podcast, bringing you another episode from our series of the Premier League team previews for the upcoming season. We got Leicester up next, who've now officially, I think, they're the top six, man. They've kicked out Arsenal or Spurs. Were Spurs ever really in it? That's a real question. But look, Leicester is a big European side now. I think there's no question about it. They came through winning that league. They've come through some tragedies with their own passing, but I think they've firmly cemented themselves thanks to Brendan Rodgers. Last season they came fifth. They've kind of missed out. They've bottled that the Champions League spot 2 seasons in a row now. That might be something to do with taking Spurs a spot. There's a bit of voodoo that comes with that. But overall, they had a good season, I think. So you wanted to kind of press on a little bit with how they went last season and talk me through who you think their best performing players were.
Yeah, like you said, I think that people talk about the big six in England. I think it's gone back to being a big four. I think the two North London teams have kind of dropped out. They'll need to earn their spot again. And Leicester's definitely the team behind that big four. I would say that they're better than Tottenham and Arsenal at this point in time, and I'd expect them to do better this season. But I think that they played a Champions League contender again on the last day of the season again, and with 20 minutes to go again, they rather than giving away a penalty, they Schmeichel made a pretty bad howler in terms of not punching a corner well. They conceded, went behind, and it kind of fell apart in the last 20 minutes of the season. But if you look at their season, they did score a lot of goals. They actually scored as many goals as Liverpool, 68, which was a very high number. But they conceded way too many. They conceded 50, which made a big difference at the end of the season. They did have a lot of injuries in the second half of the season as well. Not a lot of players sort of played the full sort of roster of games. James Justin, Fofana got injured. There was a lot of players who were injured. Maddison only played I think 24 starts in the league. And who's the other one? Tielemans also got injured at certain points. Vardy got injured. Barnes got injured. There was a lot of injuries at that team. They've built up a pretty impressive depth, but in terms of players that don't immediately make it in the first 11, but there was just way too many injuries to cover. And if you look at the acquisitions, they've gone on to try and cover that. Iniacho really stood up, I think, in the second half of the season.
Yeah, when Vardy got injured,
And that big midfield three of Ndidi, Maddison, and Tielemans is as good as any midfield three in the league. And I think that you could argue that, with the possible exception of Liverpool, they probably got the best culture in the league in terms of the closeness to the club, the bond between the play group, the coaching group, the board. I think is as strong as anyone going around, and I think that helps them punch above their weight.
I'll just pause here. I think it might be the best in the league, given the events of the Super League with Liverpool. I think there's a massive disconnect with you'd never thought it happened, but with Liverpool, there's a massive disconnect now. And you saw the way at the FA Cup final. Was it the FA Cup final? Yeah, not the League Cup. Sorry, FA Cup when they won it. You saw the connection. It's definitely there with Kunvichai's son. I can't remember his name right now. So my point being, there's a really strong culture that kind of underpins what Leicester is about.
And it was a massive statement for them to win the FA Cup final as well.
Huge statement.
And the way that they did it, they outplayed Chelsea, who then won the European Cup 4 days later. That was a big fillip for Leicester. And I do think that there's massive opportunity for them if they can keep their best players on the pitch. They seem to have this issue fading in the second half of seasons, and last season it was due to just too many people getting injured. Do they increase depth and try and give a few more players game time, rest some of their better players at certain times? They'll have Europa this season to deal with. They'll want to try and do well in a domestic cup as well. So how they manage that's going to be really important for them this season.
Well, as far as transfers go, Wesley Morgan is about to leave, and Fuchs as well, part of that famous 2015-16 team. Are there big losses in talent? No. Are there big losses in the dressing room? For sure. But talk us through. They've signed Daka, they have a few more signs that have come in. Talk to us about that, and talk about how that's going to be important into the start of the season with the people they're playing.
Yeah, Saka was the guy who replaced Haaland at Red Bull Salzburg. So
Daka. Is it Daka or is it Saka? I've confused the name now. It's Saka.
Daka. Daka. I could be.
Never mind. It's okay. We know what we're talking about.
Yeah, the young striker they brought in, so he will compete with Iniacho. I think that'll be good for both of them. There'll be enough minutes for both of them with the Europa to really compete and try and win that spot. Iniacho needs to kick on. He had a good second half of the season, like I said, but he needs to play like that way season in, season out. He's 24 now. They've added Bertrand for depth, which I think is good in the fullback positions, particularly with Fuchs on the way. And Soumare was a really interesting one. He's sort of a young French, classy, athletic defensive midfielder. I think part of me thinks that they might be preparing for Ndidi to leave, but I do think the fact that they actually got him and at the price that they got him shows how highly Leicester are rated in terms of talent and world football. They've really got a niche in the French and Belgian leagues of picking young players. And I think that they could go and cherry pick a few more talents from France, just given the French league, the TV deal that they had collapsed last year. So a lot of those clubs are a bit shorter on cash than they would like. And that greater Paris area at the moment is the hotbed of world football talent.
Yeah.
And if you look at their fixtures, sorry.
No, go on.
Home fixtures, Wolves, Man City, Burnley. Away fixtures, West Ham, Norwich, Brighton. You take Man City out of that, that's a very easy, soft type of start. And I think it will suit them. They are a team that do go out hard at the beginning of seasons. I could see them winning 5 of their first 6 games. I think it's very doable. And that would help just get them into a good rhythm and get them going with the season.
They didn't have a particularly strong showing in the Euros either, which if they're going to beat Man City last season had a poor start, it could play into their hands. But Man City, probably every single player has gone to the Euros at some stage. Even Zinchenko went with Ukraine. Just to that point, they could have a 6 out of 6 start.
Yeah, absolutely. Man City is a home game as well. They did win that 5-2 last year, so they do know how to beat Man City. It was a different Man City, but they did well to beat that Man City team.
Yeah, it was 5-2.
Yeah. I do think the big 4 will be harder to beat this year than last season, but I do expect Leicester to improve and to push them hard.
Yeah. Well, they are in the Europa. I think they'd be favorites going into the Europa personally. One of the favorites at least. Are they going to be stretched? You talk about their depth. They have some key players. Ndidi Fofana. We love Fofana. We talked about it many times. Ndidi, Tillmans, Schmeichel's had a fairly good Euros as well after kind of a very average season. Are those players going to be enough to take them through 2 big competitions, including the FA Cup, which they definitely want to defend?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think they may need to pick and choose games. I think the Europa group stage, I think they'll need to pick and choose games to go hard in there. The League Cup, they may need to sacrifice it. If they manage things well and they do better with injuries than last year, definitely they're able to manage that. They had a lot of youngsters show a lot of promise last year. So Barnes, I think, got 12 goals or 10 goals in the league. Fofana and James Justin, we talked about as well. They can add a lot more than they did last year. But the key is really that midfield 3. And then Ndidi in particular is, we all sort of rate him with it. He's a bit like Belgium. Like, we all rate him without really appreciating. You know what I mean? He's probably up with Kante in terms of being the best at his position, at that position in the Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, overall, they're a very good team. That I think there's no doubt that they are one of the best teams in the world, one of the best teams in England right now. I think the management has backed Brendan Rodgers, who's proven to be not a one-trick pony. He's done well with Swansea, did very well at Liverpool, dropped off his last season, he's done very well at Leicester.
And
people kind of question. Well, I was just going to say that people kind of question why he was jumping ship. They called it kind of, I think he knew how good he was, and he backed himself, and the owners have backed him as well. Where do you see them coming this season? And not just with the Premier League, a bit different with the last few videos we've done. Talk me through what you think the expectations on all 4 fronts, including the Community Shield, could be another trophy for them.
Yeah, they actually will be playing Man City in the Charity Shield. Yeah. So I think that game's a very 50-50. I think.
I'm teasing there, but like on the other.
In terms of the season, I think they need to sacrifice the League Cup. I do think they could do very well in the FA Cup. Their challenge this year is to get into the Champions League, and there's 2 ways of doing that. One is to gate crash the top 4, and the second one is to win the Europa. So I think that the idea of them winning, a domestic trophy, it would mean a European trophy would mean a massive amount to that club. So I do think that the idea of winning the Europa is probably more realistic than the Premier League, but I think they do need to have a go at both fronts. I actually do see them having a greater chance in the Europa, though. I just think the top 4 is that good that no one else is going to be able to break it. but I do think Leicester have the best shot out of any club outside that top four to get in. I would expect them to finish fifth though, and their best chances to win the Europa. It's a bit hard to say who's going to win the Europa, but if I had to put money on someone, it probably would be Leicester.
I do completely agree as well. We were talking about yesterday about West Ham potentially going on to win the Europa. Leicester, and it slipped my mind, but yeah, I mean Leicester would be the favorite. Really, would be the favorite going into the Europa, and winning a European Cup is usually the start of real heritage to what we know as modern day football. There are many teams with heritage, including West Ham, including Sheffield Wednesday. But if you're winning that European Cup, whether it's Europe or whether it's Champions League, it's a big moment for any club. And I think you're absolutely right. I think that's what they should aim for. And it's a real luxury to that point of sacrificing the League Cup. That's what big teams do. And if you can call yourself a team that can afford to sacrifice a cup, Newcastle wants to win the League Cup. Leicester can go, we will sacrifice this. It just shows how far they've come since we knew them. I remember very well Leicester being United 5-1 or 5-3 in a league game, and Di Maria scored a chip over the keeper. Vardy scored a hat-trick that game. That was their first season back in the league, and since then, it's not a very long time, 7 or 8 years since. And now, no, it's a bit less than that actually, 6 years. And now they're one of the best teams in the world, one of the best teams in England.
That 2016 win seemed like a flash in the pan, but I think that this wave that they've built is something that's very substantial.
Sustainable.
You do need strong ownership. I think they've got strong ownership. I don't know how deep the pockets are, but I think that a team like Liverpool, I don't think Liverpool's pockets are as deep as anyone thinks, but they do well with what they have. I think Liverpool struggle financially with those three big clubs, but I think Leicester can do what Liverpool does if they get things right over the next few years. I'm not saying they'll be there in a year. I'm saying that they can build something over the next few.
I think that's a good point to finish on, and what they can't afford in money, they make up with massive culture. Anyway, tell us what you think about Leicester, guys. Are they going to finish 4th, 5th, 6th? Are they going to win the league again? Is it going to be a surprise? Who fuck knows? In this game, it's a mad game you're in. And thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what we say. We are the 5-Yard Pass. My name is Suddy. This is Shyam. Keep football simple, and as always,
keep passing, guys. Cheers.